Okay, let's get started with section 11.3. Okay, what's our tangents to parabolas? That's the name. Two parabolas. Okay, that's the name of this unit here. All right, okay, so we're going to just jump right into an example here, all right, and go through it. So example 1, all right, we're going to find the equation of the tangent to the parabola. For each case. Okay, so what we're going to have for the first one, let's start with 1/16 y squared equals x, and it's going to be tangent at 1, 4. Okay, for ourselves. Okay, so what do we know about this equation? Well, we know for this equation, right, that the equation, if we put it into point slope form, would look something like this. Okay, there's my point, here's the slope, I need to find that slope for myself. Okay, there we go. Now we're okay, there's our slope. So what do I need? Well, let's see. Okay, let's think about what we have here. And we know that this is a point that's both on, right, this point is on both the parabola and the line. Okay, so basically we need a case where both this is true and this is true. Now, because it's on both the parabola and the line, we can then take this equation and replace the x with 1/16 y squared minus 1. Okay, because remember, that's what x is equivalent to. The nice part about that is we just have two variables instead of three there now. Okay. If I then look at this and say, well, I don't want the 1/16 in there, I can adjust for that, and let me take that 1/16 out. Okay, I get to this. And what happens, it's really convenient for this one, and it happens in so many of these that we're going to see, is that if we were to move this around here and set it equal to 0, I'm just going to call that the group y minus 4 here. This right here will factor and give us this group. And so we can then look at this and say, okay, right, if I'm doing this, whoops, that's not going to go away. So I can factor out y minus 4 from both the groups. Okay, so what's left for the first group? M over 16, y plus 4, and then the second group was left with just a minus 1 for myself. Okay, so what does this tell me? What have I just learned? So remember, I'm looking for points. I'm looking for points that are in common when I'm doing this here. Okay, and if this tells me that y equals 4 is a value that's in common, but we know this from the given point, right? Okay, this is the one where we're really going to learn something. Okay, so if we're looking at this, this tells us that m over 16 times the quantity y plus 4 minus 1 must equal 0 at some case. Okay, because it's a factored group, and as long as one of them equals 0, right, the whole thing multiplies to be 0. If I move the 1 over, right, for myself, and I move the 16 over because I don't want to have that fraction anymore. I'm done with that fraction. I get to that. Okay, and then I can also get y plus 4 equals 16 over m. Okay, so I have that that condition. Now remember that we know what the y value needs to be in order for we're worried about the tangent at 1, 4. So we know that this y value must be 4. Say that one more time. Because of the initial conditions here, that the line had to pass through 1, 4, and the graph had to pass through 1, 4, then we know that the y value must be 4. from this very bottom here. So we plug it in. So this means that m must be 2 for ourselves. So we've just figured out the slope of 2. Okay. So let's just run through that one more time because it may seem like you may have gotten lost a little bit down here. Okay. So we're trying to find the equation of the line that's tangent. Here's our line. We plugged in the given point. We know that it has to pass through that point. We need to figure out what the slope is. Okay. We know that 1, 4 is a point on this. All right. Just keep that in mind. When we went and we now set it equal to 0, we saw that this y squared minus 16, it can factor, and it gave us that y minus 4 group. We factored out the y minus 4 group. Right? So for this equation here, y equals 4 is a solution, which we knew. We knew that that was a point on the graph. Right? So that's not really a shock. We're just trying to figure out what the m value is, so we worked on this one. We basically moved things around for ourselves. And then we said, hey, wait, I know what the y value needs to be. The y value must be 4. How do I know it has to be 4? Because it told me that the point must pass through the 1, 4. So I can plug that 4 in for the y. And I went and that gave me a slope of 2. And now I can finish that equation that I started with. That's just taking this equation from the beginning, just plugging in the 2 there. Okay, all right, let's try a second example here. Okay, second example. Right, new point. The new equation for this one. Okay, let's make this equation 1/8 x minus 3 squared plus 5, and we're going to be tangent at the point -1, 7. Okay, so that's our information. And now if you want to try this, right, it's a great time to hit that pause button on the video, give it a shot, and then watch my explanation. If you're not sure you're ready to do that yet, you could rewatch the first example, or just watch me do this, and then you'll have plenty of examples to try later on. Okay, so first thing, I know I'm looking for an equation, I'm looking for a line. I know that the line has to pass through the point -1, 7, so there's my point. Okay. This is the given condition. Remember that this and these lines have to have a common point. We're looking for the common point is the solution. So I'm going to take, since it's solved for y, I'll replace that with y. So I'll have 1/8 x minus 3 squared plus 5 minus 7 equals m x plus 1 for myself. Okay. So that becomes 1/8 x minus 3 squared minus 2 equals m x plus 1. Okay. At this point for myself, how about, I guess I'll probably just scale everything by 8, get rid of that fraction. Okay. Okay, remember we're going to be looking to try to factor this later, so basically this is going to come over here, right, for ourselves. But let's try to make this look a little nicer first. So if I distribute that out, I just don't like how it's got the this group and then the minus 16 there. Okay. Now, if you're really good at factoring, you could, because that's a perfect square, you could factor this right here in one step. Right? Good for you if you can do that. Awesome. Right? I'm gonna assume that you don't remember how to factor it for now, and I'll show you that factoring later. Okay. Get that for ourselves. Hey, this one, remembering that I kind of want that group there, so that kind of gives me a hint. But if I factor that now, there's that. I'll move this over at the same time. Okay. Factor out the x plus 1. Use parentheses here. We have x minus 7 minus 8m. Okay. So that means that x plus 1 equals 0, or x minus 7 minus 8m equals 0. In order for these two groups to multiply 0, one of those two must equal 0. Right, that's back in Algebra 1, but a much more complicated version. Okay, we got that. We look at this and we say to ourselves, well, do we know what the Do we know what the x value needs to be? Yeah, we do. We know the x value has to be -1 because that was given to us. So we'll replace that with -1. And so I get -8 minus 8m equals 0. Move that over. M is then going to be -1. Hey, I have my equation. Whoops, y minus 7 equals negative x plus 7, x plus 1 for myself. Okay, all right, this is, and again, this shouldn't shock you that we got x equals -1 there. We know that because that's the tangent. Okay, when we get over here, we know what the x value needs to be. It needs to be -1 because, hey, we know that's the point on the tangent there, right? So this is always going to come from the one of these two values is always going to come into play down here for ourselves. Okay, as we're doing that. Okay, now let me talk to you. I said, we could factor this one right here. So this right here, if I wanted to do it, remember that these are a difference of squares, difference of perfect squares, so I could have factored out as x minus 3 minus 4 and x minus 3 plus 4, right? And so that would have given me x minus 7 and x plus 1, and that's nice. I could have saved myself a couple steps there if I wanted to do that, right, for myself. Okay, right, so we get that value there. Okay.